Hello, what is poppin' YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, back again with some new stuff. New shelves, because I got even more collectible stuff just so I can showcase more. Also, ended up getting a new phone a couple weeks ago because the one I had would no longer turn on, which means I lost everything. I lost all my stuff. The only thing I could recover was like accounts, right? But I lost all my music, I lost all my downloaded stuff, including, photos for thumbnails and stuff, intros, and again, background music. So I'm sorry for Ground Zero, so this is why I haven't had an intro for the past few videos. I need to work on another intro. Also, how do you like it, guys? How do you like the merch, quote unquote? I don't have merch, but I just made this. But if you guys do want something like this, do feel free to let me know. Anyway, we have a first place deck profile for the deck I played yesterday. This has been going around in the Orcust page for I'd say about a week and a half now. It's now named B.R.O. It stands for Brave Rocket Orcust, but I have a twist to this deck. This is more of a monster mash style and all that. So essentially the theory behind Brave Rocket Orcust is essentially the Brave engine is used to set up a negate, and you can use your rocket stuff to set up your Chaos Ruler. You can also normal summon things like Brass Bombard, make your Link Rebo, whatever, summon your Gearsus. You can mill stuff with your Chaos Ruler and still get access to your Orcust engine. You can discard Gearsu, bring back Gearsu. You can discard Nightmare with things like Faithful Venture. There's surprisingly a few ways you can still turn your Orcust engine online, even though Gearsu doesn't. You don't want to activate Gearsu's effect on normal summon because of the Brave engine. Again, you can special summon it. You can normal summon Symbol and make Orcust stuff that way, and bring back the Gallon stuff. Set up your stuff. It's pretty interesting. I'm not going to explain too much more. That is going to be for the profile itself. So let's go. Alrighty, folks. Let's go ahead and get this bad boy started. We are going to start off with just the normal summon, the 3 Mechanite Orcust Gearsus. These are, if you don't open Brave, this is still something you want to open, so, it is what it is. When we follow up with Double Nightmare, it's something that, you really don't mind to open if you do see Brave stuff, because you send it from your hand to the grave with a Faithful Venture and get your engine online that way. We have one symbol. Depending on what you want to do, you maybe would want to play 3 just so you can have access to 2 Orcust monsters, essentially making Gal and linking it off and then bringing it back with Symbol. But honestly, I don't think it was needed. I didn't really miss. I don't think one time I wanted to see Skeleton. Brass Bombard, I summoned it a lot with Needle Fiber. That's typically how I got access to a lot of the Orcust engine, was through Brass. So it was nice, especially when you have Gearsu in your hand. One more wand, you kind of need to play it. Babel, that card is very nice. One Orchestrated Return, never played it. I think I'm going to cut it for 2 copies of Crescendo, because Jesus Christ, man, Crescendo is good. You kind of need multiples, especially with all these follow-up going on. So many of these decks have insane follow-up. So that's really the Orcust engine. Again, this is 60 cards, by the way. So the engine is 3, 6, 9, 11 cards for Orcust. So still an Orcust deck at the end of the day, but it's whatever. Next we have 3 Enchantress of the Temple. And we're on to the Brave engine. We're doing this by engines, by the way. Just to let you guys know and just fill you guys in. 3 rights, pretty standard, 1 Fateful standard, 1 Dracoback standard, and 1 Wandering Griffin Rider standard. The only thing that's not standard is typically I'm going to be synchroing both the token and the Griffin Rider, because it's like the kind of stuff I got in here, it almost gives you a base feeling, if that makes any sense. That probably won't become apparent until I get further down this list. So we did the Orcust engine, we did the Brave engine, and now we're going to do the Rocket engine. We got 3 quick launch, 1 tracer. We don't really want to see any of these rockets. Rocket caliber is a lot better because of Brave, making it to where now if you do open Gearsu, you can summon it from your hand with Rocket Caliber, so that's also nice. And we got the 1 Rocket Recharger and a Boot Sector launch. I've used Recharger quite a bit, especially if you have Resolved Brave. Right, let's say you open the Gearsu and you just send it. There has, I think it was like twice I actually used Striker to grab Recharger and just Recharger back to Gearsu. So it was nice. Chaos Ruler is also pretty insane in the deck as well. So, yeah. Spoiler, we're playing that as well. Now, on to the stuff that you're kind of not seeing in a lot of these B.R.O decks, these Brave Rocket Orcust decks. We're on 3 Emergency Teleport and a 1-for-1. What we're summoning with that, it typically is Psy Reflector to grab Assault Mies, to search Assault Mode activate, to bring it back to summon your Chaos Ruler, so then your Rocket stuff is a little bit more flexible in terms of putting bodies on board and all this other stuff. But one other thing that we're playing that we can also make use of is the Punk engine. So that means we're on a double Foxy Tune. We don't have a third one, but honestly, I think I may have played 3 if I owned a third, honestly. It seems like one of those cards, especially if you're playing Brave, where you just kind of, if you don't open Teleport, you want to open Foxy Tune. So we got the 1 No Punk Xiamen and a Madam Spider with a Searched Imperm. So this engine did very, very nice overall. The level 3 tuners actually mattered. The Foxy Tune being a light, that matters, especially if you hit it with Chaos Ruler, or if you have it in hand already and you just send it, and so you have the light target to banish for Chaos Ruler. Is really nice, especially if you have like multiple E-Tellies, or if you have like 1-for-1 or an E-Telly, whatever, you can then E-Telly into this engine. The Search Imperm seems to always come in clutch, if not just to have an extra card in hand to send with a lot of your cost effects. Next, we're going to go with what makes a lot of this stuff good. So we are on 3 Red Rose. This card is pretty nice in this deck. Now you would think this card is dead because a lot of the times if you see it and you don't see Brave, but there are some other things in this deck that you can sync into with this card that make it good and make it live a lot. So obviously if we're playing those, then we are playing the Roxy Rose and the Bales Rose Shoot. Fun fact, every time I open this card, actually I think 1 or 2 times I opened this, I did not see this, but every other time I opened this, I always saw it with Basil Rose Shoot, and it was extremely annoying when it happened. But for those of you guys who don't know, if Red Rose is sent to grave as synchro material, you can summon a Rose Dragon from your deck, which is typically Roxy Rose, which is also a tuner. And if it's normal or special, you can add essentially this card, which summons a Rose Dragon from your hand or graveyard. So typically, if I opened both Red Rose and Basil Rose, I would just send the Red Rose with like a Fateful, and just bring it back and do stuff. So now we're on to yet another engine that B.R.O decks are typically not on. So that is what differentiates this from the other ones. They're not playing the E-Tellies, they're not playing the Punks, they're not playing the Psy Reflectors, and they're not playing Dangers. So we were on 3 Nessie, 1 Jack, 1 Such, and 1 Mothman. The Mothman was for level 4 purposes if you sent Jackalope for things like any of the rockets and all that. The Nessie is also a card that can be used with Red Rose if you don't open your Brave stuff. And you can still make your Baron and still do your stuff and still make your Needle Fiber and summon your Brass Bombard and things like that. Dangers were nice. Every time I saw them, they were welcomed. These were a very, very welcome addition to the deck. They're dark monsters, so they can play around the Orcust stuff still. They trigger Faithful Adventure. You don't need to normal summon them. It gets you deep in your deck it gets you into things like 1-for-1. It gets you into E-Tail. It gets you into I've drawn into Red Rose Dragon with the Dangers. Like, it draws you into like mostly good stuff. It just draws you into like useful stuff. Like anything out of like any of those engines outside of like, you know, the obligatory stuff like your Boot or your Crescendo or your Babel, which I've never drawn with the Dangers, so it was alright. 1 Fairy Tale Snow. I did not think I would like this card. I didn't even think I would use it, but I used it and it performed. Especially since I get access to it with Shooting Riser Dragon. And, you know, it's like when you have nothing left, at the very least you have Snow and IP on board. Which is already a few interruptions by themselves, especially if you have enough materials engraved for a second Snow effect after you've linked it off. Oh yeah. That alone could put in some serious work. So, aside from that, we are having to play some kind of defense, right? So we are on 1 Call by the Grave, 3 crossed out Designators, as well as hand traps of choice. So, we got 1 Nib, 1 Ogre, 1 Imperm, and 1 Veiler. So, I was on 1 Ash as well until I realized that there was a card missing in the deck, which was Dracoback, and so I just cut the Ash because, like, let's be honest, like, every deck can play through an Ash. So, but these hand traps I felt like were the most impactful. At least Ogre on my Faithful stuff and on my Rocket stuff, as well as like Nib. But Nib isn't really that big of an issue. If I got nibbed once, and that's only because the guy had like Gamma as well. But even despite all of that, I still managed to normal some of the Snow out of my hand and link that with the token into an IP and passed. So it was nice. Yeah, but any of these, like, you just kind of want to neutralize any targeting effect negation. And the last card in our 60 card list is just a Foolish Burial, which I never saw. So that could have literally been anything. That could have been an Ash, honestly, but I figured Foolish was another card that can access my Brave stuff or the Orcust stuff. Alright, guys, extra deck time. We got 2 Gal Girls, 1 Long Gear Suit. This card actually performed quite a bit, especially with all these Phoenix Enforcers running around. They're just being able to send that hoe and not have its effect go off to bring itself back. It's nice. I've also sent like access codes and stuff with it before they could use their effects. I've sent, I've sent a Dark Possessed or whatnot, or the Charmer, the Dark Charmer, Link 2, and just other stuff. Like, that card, it really performed way better than I thought it would. 2 Dingirsus, it's Dingirsu, so Dingirsu does what Dingirsu does, so that is it for the Orca stuff. Next, we got our Link Karibo. This is what we just link into with Brass Bombard. And Striker Dragon for the Rocket Engine. You have to play it. Honestly, it's just really good as a link as well, just to make Savage with. Needle Fiber, I summon this like every single game. Either with like through the Rose Dragon stuff or through the Punk stuff. Or just like anything with like tuners. Even like, I even use Tracer to summon this. You know, the fiber got ogred, but it didn't matter because I accomplished what I wanted to, which is digging from Brass Bombard, make Link Karibo, you know, Karibo, Bandit, and then I used like Boot and brought out back the Tracer out. You know, since I got my I forgot what I got Gamma. I think it was a Water Enchantress. Yeah, I think it was Water Enchantress that got Gamma. And so he saw more monsters than me. I just brought back the Tracer and just banished the Brass and summoned the Gearsu. And, you know, use the Tracer on the Boot and just kind of went nutty on him. Since he had, like, only 2 cards in his hand. Or 3 cards in his hand, and I set up, like, Savage Crescendo. Anyway, let's see, IP Masquerena, this card performed well, except the one time where against Phantom Knights I kind of just got my IP plus my Galatea super polyed into, so yeah, that was whatever. Even though Albaz isn't even out yet, I'm still getting super polyed. Crazy, huh? Unicorn, so, you know, it works extremely well with IP and Snow, turning it's really good with Snow. That's all. B.R.O Sword, my OTK tool, I went into this like 3 or 4 times. It's actually way easier. It's pretty easy to go into this stuff when you have like a lot of like cards that just generate multiple bodies. Like E-Telly can get you multiple bodies. The Bracelet gets you multiple bodies. You know, Quick Launch gets you to multiple bodies. Like, there's so many cards that get you into multiple bodies. It's crazy. Plus, you had Orcust stuff and great for follow-up. Good OTK tool. Chaos Ruler, typically going into it with, like, Teleport or the Rocket Engine. That's typically the first level 8 sync we'll go into. The second level 8 sync we'll go into would be Savage. I didn't summon it as much. I typically will prioritize Chaos Ruler first to get into my engine or to, like, mill Enchantress, which I did do. I milled Enchantress. I've hit Foxy Tune. I've added that Foxy Tune to hand, and it was like just nuts. Another addition to the deck, we are playing Baron. I'm pretty sure some of you guys figured that out the moment you saw Red Rose Dragon. Baron is extremely good. It sets up your negate with your Griffin, and then it summons Roxy Rose, which, you know, that is a level 3 combined with your level 4 Brave token. Makes Shooting Riser Dragon, which sends the Snow. Shooting Riser is also a tuner. So you would use that and the monster you bring back with Basil Rose Shoot to make Needle Fiber and summon your Brass Bombard. And go in, essentially. So, yeah, this is a nice, weird, you know, flexible, interesting little extra deck. But onto the side deck, because side deck also performed very, very well. So, these are more cross-out targets. We sided Joel and Lockbird because this deck searches a lot. Also, we want to beat like any other deck that searches. Like, I played against that Salamangreat. They're on Brave. They're on DPE. Phantom Knights, of course, they search a lot. They're on DPE. So I also play Scythe or Lancia. Also because not only for like things like Phantom Knight and Brave and all that, but also because I play Orcust. So if my opponent is on Lancia, I would like to cross out it, and so I can banish. Token Collector for Shooting Riser in the side if I'm playing against like Tenye Brave or, you know, Sword Soul or just any Brave. I'll just send this and just kind of sit on it essentially with Riser. So also these next few cards. We need all the outs to Artifact Scythe, so 3 Forbidden Dripsies, 2 Forbidden Chirpsies, so we got, 5 outs to Scythe, 6 outs to Scythe, because if we are playing against Scythe, we're going to keep cross-out in and just side this in. It's unfortunate we have to dedicate so much space to make sure Scythe does not resolve at, like, any cost. But it is what it is. Next we have 9 outs this side. If you open this, just kind of keep track of where they set the sights so you can kind of pinpoint it and snipe it. and 3 twisters because we want to see at least 6 back row hate for Flunder because to hell with that abomination, right? So yeah, the side deck side deck was nice. It performed just as well as the main deck. This is just a very weird deck, guys. Ooh, man, what did I just do? Very weird deck. You would think this is base, but it's Orcust. It really is just, you're just ending on like Savage Baron and like IP and like Orcust stuff with like a Snow and Grave, typically, if you get to the Red Rose. But if you already had access to Orcust combo, you can Needle Fiber into Red Rose, which I have done, and just sync with like a Nessie or the Griffin Rider into a Baron and just still have your negates. The unfortunate part about this deck is there's no level 5s you can play, right? And the reason why that's very unfortunate is because of things like Red Rose and the Punks. And it made it to where the only way I was getting into Chaos Ruler was specifically with Teleport for the Side Reflector stuff, or I'd have to lock myself into Darks early with the Rocket Engine to make Chaos Ruler and then rob myself of the ability to play Baron. So that is that's some unfortunate stuff there. But anyway, first place, the deck performed way better than I thought it would. So maybe I'll give this deck a try again. I think the only reason this deck works is because people are not on Lancia. Thank God. But the moment people get on Lancia, just, well, you gotta put the deck up again. So, that's it for me, guys. Yeah. Alright. A lot of stuff, man. It gives you based vibes at this, doesn't it? You know, you see a lot of stuff that you would see in based, except you're not seeing, like, you're not seeing any 10Es, you're not seeing, like, any Sword Soul. I don't think base played Sword Soul stuff, though. But, yeah. It's a wild deck, isn't it? I threw it together, just out of nowhere. Like, I looked at some of the bro list, none of them were playing things like E-Telly. They weren't playing the Side Reflector stuff. They weren't playing the Punk stuff. They weren't playing the Rose Dragon stuff. They weren't playing Dangers. And honestly, I think that just that's what just gave it the extra oomph that the deck needs to kind of push through a lot of these hand traps, because that's exactly what this deck was doing. So let me know, you guys, what your thoughts are with this deck down in the comments below. Again, this is a slapped together deck. I kind of just was on the fly with this. All these 60 card lists, man. 60 cards seems to be the way to go now. It's just more and more engines and more ways to turn your deck online. So, I don't think 60 cards going anywhere anytime soon. Even if, like, Brave gets hit, you know what I mean? 60 card just seems like it's just, just more engines. So, anyway, that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's J Money, and I am signing out.